Oliver Wilson, who has pledged to cut his own salary if he becomes president in order to better spend the money elsewhere.
How will he do this under pressure? How will he do under pressure? Let's hand over to Jack Staples-Butler for our first presidential interview.
Joining me now is the presidential candidate, Oliver Wilson. Good evening, Oliver.
Good evening, Jack.
Now, the first question I'd like to ask you concerns your manifesto pledge to maintain strict neutrality. I understand you were formerly a member of the University of York Tories, but you plan to be a member of no political party and to strive that YUSU will adopt a position of official neutrality. Could you explain that for us?
Well, yeah, I mean, I want to make YUSU politically neutral, but that doesn't mean that obviously political decisions will have to be made. I just think that it's best. There's 18,000 people at the university, right? These people have a variety of views and opinions, and I think that we're best placed at YUSU is best placed to represent them by being neutral until they have a mandate, until we have a mandate from the student body. And so one of the ways we could get that mandate, of course, is through referenda. They've been introduced in the last few years and been incredibly successful at a wide variety of referenda on lots of different subjects. And also another mandate might come through elected officers' manifestos.
Okay. Concerning referenda, so do you think that YUSU should just not take a position on certain issues until a referenda has been held?
Well, I mean, obviously, you know, there's a constant. YUSU is an active organisation that that's got to do constant sort of running of the students' union. So definitely decisions will have to be made. But I think that it's best to come at them from a position of neutrality, like civil servants do. Civil servants relinquish all political involvement until they have to make a political decision.
Well, that leads me quite neatly onto my next question. So would a neutral YUSU be essentially an administration like the civil service without any active campaigning or policy role on issues, so for example, like tuition fees or engaging with the defence industry? A few years ago there was a controversy over BAE Systems and its role at York and other national political issues like this.
Well, I mean, as I say, I think that definitely YUSU is best placed to represent the interest of students. And if students overwhelmingly, as they have shown, time and time again through referenda and through electing officers, have opinions on these things, then we should definitely follow those opinions. But I think that we should, if possible, if at all possible, wait until those opinions are expressed and wait until we've got a concrete way of finding out those opinions.
In your manifesto, you refer to the present situation involving people who are, quote, shouting the loudest, end quotes, having an unfair amount of influence over YUSU policy, something that you wish to correct with adopting policies based on referenda. Who do you think at the moment is shouting the loudest?
Well, I mean, the reason
we don't need to name names, but
of course, the reason I use that phrase actually is because I think it's something that came up a lot when I was speaking to people before I officially announced my candidacy, and also I think is going to come up quite a lot in the student attitude survey that went out in York a few weeks ago and will be announced shortly. So I think that a lot of people feel like, I mean, that phrase represents a variety of different viewpoints, but that it's just that there is, as I say, 18,000 people at the University of York. Only 30% of those people actually voted last year in the YUSU elections, and so a lot of people feel like that YUSU doesn't really represent them. So I want to try and be as representative as possible. I don't think that phrase wasn't targeted against one specific group, but rather.
Right. Well, how could you be representative of the student body if the turnout this year is the same, around 30%, or even lower? Would you even have, by your own standards, any kind of democratic mandate?
Well, I mean, it's not as if people don't choose not to vote. Choosing not to vote is just as much a choice as choosing to vote for any particular candidate or Ron. And so I do think that it will be a mandate if I am elected. But what I really want to do is combat that kind of crisis of representation and really make sure YUSU is seen and more active around the university. And that's why I'm going to give out free tea every Monday in the library of term. And I will be there, or if I can't be, another member of YUSU, to take any questions, any queries, complaints about the quality of the tea, and various other things like that. In order to have a permanent place that people know that they can come and find YUSU and get involved and get active and have their views heard, rather than at the moment, which is it's quite closed, it's quite difficult to get involved with, and it's fairly difficult to understand really what YUSU does.
Okay. In reference to student welfare, one of your most notable manifesto pledges is to donate £3,000 of your sabbatical officer salary towards the Student Financial Support and Financial Hardship Fund. how practically is that going to be done? Have you consulted as to whether this would be legal, whether you would be allowed to do this, whether the university would accept you shaving off part of your salary and giving it back to the funds? Have you considered that this might be somewhat embarrassing for the university if you did this?
Well, I don't think it'd be embarrassing for the university. The reason I put forward this policy is because most students live on around £12,000 a year. That's around the average student income. And that's an amount of money that's, as you can tell, far lower than the average YUSU salary, which is £18,000 plus overtime. So that was my real reasoning for it. But I come from a lower income family. I've lived entirely off student grants and a full-time job over summer for the last 3 years. And I think that if students are paying my salary, then it's only fair that I live on a reasonable amount, an amount that's representative for them.
Okay, and one final question before we go. Can you name, just off the top of your head, any speakers or events or anything else that YUSU have obstructed or failed to accommodate that you would change or would try to change at York?
I think that there's definitely a place for YUSU looking at various speakers and events. But I think that they should really have a rule of reasonable academic value. So if they don't have academic value, then I think it's reasonable that YUSU might want to, and the university might want to not engage in those debates on campus.
Okay. Thank you very much. That was Oliver Wilson, campaigning to be YUSU President.
Okay, so now